Well, it's a good evening from Australia in the year 2024. Who would have thought? We've been going now 5 years on Radio FM 88, Dreaming the New Dream. And my co-host, as you all know, is from the UK, and our guest is also from the UK. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Andrina.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream, and especially if you're listening to a replay. Today, it is the 11th of the 1st, which is 111 if you're into numbers. So it's welcome back after the New Year break. So it's lovely to be back again. And today, my guest is Susan Laing, and she's down in Glastonbury. So today I'm down in Dorset to talk about musical chairs. I've followed Susan for a little while because of your work, and I like you've put up fabulous menus and recipes and things about liver cleanses and all sorts of amazing things, which I'm doing my best to fine-tune myself all the time in what I eat and different things. So anyway, without further ado, welcome, Susan. It's lovely to have you as a guest on the show this week.
Thank you. Really been looking forward to this meeting online.
I'm wearing the same colours that we're in a nice light blue.
Yes.
Okay, so you started off life in Nigeria. You were born there. Yeah. And you've lived in the forest or the jungle. So would you like to share? Because I know you've had a fantastic start to life, and you've learned so many things that have led you to where you are now. So would you like to start from the very beginning?
Yeah, I had a very, I would say, blessed start in my life, to be in the sunshine and the outdoors, and in particular surrounded by nature, living in the bush in Nigeria, because my dad grew rubber trees. Yeah. And so we lived the nearest town. We used to go shopping, once every 2 months, because it was a 2-hour drive away. And so it was a very different lifestyle. And as you get older, you just realize how grateful and how blessed a life I've had, really.
Yeah, I can hear her. So apparently when we're talking off air, you went from Nigeria, then you ended up over in Papua New Guinea, yeah?
Yeah, my dad, so we were there 12 years, and then my dad came back to the UK,
right?
And so then he went back out to Papua New Guinea.
Do the stories about living in the bush then.
Yeah. So you'd like to know some stories about living in the bush?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't forget she's on the farm, and the farm doesn't have major cable internet, so it's all done by phone and hotspotting. Yeah.
Well,
with the living in the bush.
So my dad used to rescue West African grey parrots, and so we had quite a few rescued West African grey parrots. We had a deer, a duiker, which was allowed in the house, and we named it Bambi. And we had chameleons on the, we had so many animals that it was a menagerie. And my brother and I had 2 brothers that were born in Nigeria, but my brother that I was closer to age-wise, we used to just disappear down into the Nigerian villages and go and mix with the Nigerians. And, we'd just be down in, the huts and being offered food and getting up to all sorts of shenanigans. And we'd always come back with tummy ache, and my mum would say, "Don't you go down there again," but we were kids, we'd be down there again. And so, yeah, it was there was no apartheid. And there was such a feeling of, now that I realize at my age that I am now, the freedom, you were free and you could just go wherever you wanted and you'd be fine. It was safe. But
whereabouts in Nigeria were you?
it was, first of all, Calabar and then the Midwest. And I also remember the roads. So sometimes if you were going into the main parts of the country, the cities like Apapa or Ibadan, sometimes the traffic, apparently in the Guinness Book of Records, was in Nigeria's the worst for traffic jams. And there would be like three lines, sort of traffic sort of cars coming towards you and three going that way, but there was only two sides to the road, one side, two sides. It was crazy.
So what about wild animals then?
So yeah, we had main thing was parrots, but then in Papua New Guinea we had cockatoos, that were often sort of fallen out of the tree, and Dad would rescue them, and so we would bring them up and have all these parrots, these West African good parrots, which are really good fun. And we had a diker, a little sort of antelope it was, and called Bambi. We had a bush dog, two other dogs. The list goes on of all the sort of animals that we had. And then in the back, the jungle was in the back garden. So you would see all the flying sort of like, well, I suppose they were called flying foxes. They were like squirrels who just jump from tree to tree, and monkeys. That'd be the norm.
Fantastic. So I think, did you say you were there for 12 years?
Yeah.
So where did you go? Where did you go from there?
So went back to the UK, Scotland, and just hung about in Scotland. I should do. Till my dad went out to Papua New Guinea, but I was studying then to, for chiropody podiatry then, so we got to go out there and visit him, and that is really beautiful land. It's called the bird of paradise is from there, but it's such a beautiful, beautiful island, magical. So that was again another blessed experience to be out there. Yeah. So
what do you say? You were studying podiatry, but obviously health is the main talk today. So what are the steps? What did you learn that really got you into doing health and wellness?
So my journey was an unfortunate but also a gift at the same time. So my whole immune system collapsed. I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I went down to 6.5 stone, had jaundice, and I used to always have joy de vivre, and I didn't know who I was after this. Had to give up my job. I had to sell my house. I had 3 animals, 2 cats and a dog. Had to rehome them. I lost everything, including my mind, my body, you name it. I lost everything, and I didn't know who I was. And that was the start of my journey, which was a very long journey.
So what age were you then when that happened?
I was in my 30s. So I'm 60 now. So yeah, it's been a very long journey. And I was in the NHS down south. And then I went back up to live with my dad. And looking for answers to my health, I started on, as you can imagine, I'm sure you both have tried this, tried that. So eventually I came across an iridologist, and he looked in my eyes, who I actually trained with, one of the most prominent iridologists in the world, John Andrews. And he said to me, you need to eat raw, organic, and be vegan food. And I just burst into tears because I was such a foodie, which is why I like working with food, because all I could envisage was eating salads for the rest of my life. But yeah, I was like, oh no, you know, it was terrible news. But little did I know that was the start of a very interesting journey. Because if you know about raw food, there was a period where it became what's the word, very vogue. And you know, there was raw this, there was raw, we had raw festivals, there was raw places that you could go and eat, you know, the culinary places everywhere. And there was like videos made, and then people were curing themselves, inverted commas, with diabetes too by going raw in 30 days, you know, Dr. Gabriel Cousins. So he was my teacher for a while. And yeah, I just noticed when I went on this raw food, how different I felt, mainly my mental health, because I suffered from like going from full of joie de vivre to having all sorts of mental health, like I didn't have my confidence in a natural way. I don't mean like, yeah. And also I just had this terrible fatigue where I just didn't have any energy. And I've always been very sporty. And I lost confidence, and I lost everything, you know, that was going on in the body, that should have been in harmony, you know, sort of like working. So basically my hormonal system was up the spout, and everything was out of whack. And I started to look for answers. I started to go down the medical route because that's what I was trained in, and had the door sort of closed in my face, and realized that I wasn't going to get anywhere going down that path. And unfortunately, my experience really put me off the medical path. So I started doing Qigong, I started doing raw food, and then I went down, you know, I read every single book. I ate every single book I came across. That's what it felt like. And then I went on to study nutritional healing, learned about the Chinese, you know, traditional Chinese medicine, the basic 5 elements. And I did training with three iridology colleges, but I say latterly ended up training with John Andrews, which really focused on looking at the cells inside the pupil, which are considered 100% diagnostic. And I have an iridology thing on my YouTube, which has been very successful. And I did absolutely love that, because every time you would look in somebody's eyes, it was like looking into a galaxy, and everybody's eyes, you know, it was like a different galaxy each time you looked into somebody's eyes. Yeah.
Amazing.
The eyes never lie.
No, that's right. And I had a session with a friend in Australia. Oh God, I can't remember how many years ago now.
Yeah.
I don't know, 10 years or, and you know, I had all the toxins in my eyes, and she was showing me, and like now I can see in my eye, and I just got one little bit of toxin compared to what I had, you know, all that time. I had to do fiber cleanse and all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
To clear my body up, not realizing how under par I was until I started making changes. And I think, you know, you're going along at your own pace, if you like, and you're doing different things. And I know, like, I know we're going to talk about wheat and grains, but I know that wheat is not the best of things. And I've been buying ancient grains bread, and I found that my tummy is so much better since changing that.
Yeah.
And I don't eat a lot of bread anyway. I've cut out, and I never really ate a lot of cakes or biscuits.
Yeah.
know, but I have sort of fine-tuned different things. I've cut out tea, so I was always having decaffeinated tea.
Yeah.
And you know, and then when I was looking at the residue left in the cup, and I kept thinking, oh, this is what's left in my body.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I've gone on to rhubarb tea now. You know, I went in the health shop and said, what can I get as an alternative to tea? And she said, try rhubarb, and I really like it. So I've cut out the tea. So, you know, you do all these different things as they come along the pathway, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's about you are what you eat, you know.
Yes.
And we can all make, and I've done it myself, all the excuses in the world, you know, well, I haven't lost weight, but you know, you cut things out for a few days and then you go back. And I think, you know, we have choices, but the thing is now is the carbs that are everywhere, you know, it's the carbs and the sugar is what really affects people. And I've been looking at labels for quite a while. I don't understand them all, but enough to make differences to my body. So, so going on from doing the eyes, where obviously that opened up in a whole new galaxy, if you like.
Yes.
You know, the eyes are the windows of the soul, aren't they?
They really are. They tell you everything. So they never lie. So even when somebody, say, for example, was adopted and they didn't really know much about their ancestry in terms of, you know, so it's like a genetic blueprint. So whatever's showing up in your eye, it's showing up that there are tendencies. And that's the word I use, tendencies. You don't, it's a real skill, reading the eyes. It's an art, and it's obviously experience. And how the information is delivered is really important as well. I had very unfortunate experiences and I thought, I'm never going to do that. So keeping it simple and keeping it, you know, the great thing about iridology is you can get right down to the root of what may be causing the whole imbalances. And it can be emotional, spiritual, or it can be physiological, just like one tweak. And it was a privilege actually doing what I did then, you know, like helping people sort of get back on the road to a better health, really, you know.
So I suppose another thing is listening to your body, and it is being aware of the sign, you know, like if you get a rash, then obviously there's some, you know, it's looking at the emotional. So there's something irritating you underneath the skin, and, you know, as one issue. And, you know, like, I mean, I've got the book I like is The Secret Language of Your Body, because even by Inner Siegel, and that, you know, that's always been my Bible, and even down to like a thumb or a thumbnail and a split, what it means. And, you know, when I've looked up, it's something I've had going on, I think, oh my God, and, you know, it's spot on. So is really being more aware of your body, what's going on, why have I got this, or, you know, what's caused it, or where did it come from, and what can I do to clear it out of my system, isn't it?
I do teach. My greatest hobby is actually inspiring people, because when I inspire people, I inspire myself. It's a two-way thing. So keeping on the path of raw food, a very high raw food diet, inspires me when I'm making recipes and I get feedback, and especially when they say, you know, and it's same with cleansing. It's a two-way street, isn't it? It's an energetic exchange. And I feel like when people are on the path of discovery, like myself, I was always going to raw potlucks. I hung about with, you know, some great advocates of raw food and great advocates of, like, I went to see Sprout Man, who lived on sprouts, Steve Merowitz, and he cured his lung problems just by eating sprouted foods, you know. And so that was my first live workshop that I went to down in London. And each time you go along to these things, as you say, you think, oh, you know, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
And that is the magic thing, is to keep doing and going to things where you're in with people that you kind of like inspire each other. That's why we've got rock potlucks, and you know, it's good fun. It's good fun too.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that, I think that was when I first saw some of your stuff on Facebook, the raw potlucks that you put on, and the spread of food and the color and the vibrancy was amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, but every time you've had one, I haven't been up there,
I
so
know.
it just
Yeah.
it just hasn't happened. But that, you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that inspired me a lot when I saw it. I thought, wow, that looks, you know, because when people think of raw food, they think of carrots and lettuce.
Yes. Yes.
And you don't think, well, I didn't really think much further afield of all the other different colors and combinations that you can mix. So yeah, so I know that's really popular. So so let's talk about the one thing I wanted to ask was about the gallbladder and the liver cleanse and all of that, which I've done in the past. And I know I would like to do another, but anyway, that's in my queue. That's coming up. So what would you advise people to do first? Would you say to do a liver cleanse? Would you say to do a gallbladder cleanse or kidney stone? You know, what would you recommend for people that just want to start helping their body more?
Okay, so the first thing would be, so I always like to keep things simple and manageable. So if somebody's got a family or they've got a busy lifestyle, the most important thing is that when somebody leaves your company is that they can do what, you know, they're able to do. So they can walk out the door and say, yeah, I can do this. So that might just be like changing the water, the type of water somebody drinks. That's huge. It could be somebody just, excuse me, it could be somebody just cutting out wheat. And, you know, these one little tweaks are massive detoxes, you know, and it could be dairy, it could be soya. Anyway, that's an example of the sort of stages. But when you come into actually going for a cleanse, I talk about the dustbin men, which are it's like a third plumbing system in the body, and that's the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system is the system in the body. You've got arteries, veins, and then you've got the lymphatic system, which has no pumps, which is why you need to move. And the pumps in the body are squeezed. Sorry, the lymphatic system is squeezed by the muscle action, which is I have to cope with stagnancy because of my body type. And that's another huge topic, is people have different body constitutions. So not one answer is going to be the same for everybody, like what they eat, what's better for that person, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, the lymphatic system is kind of like there's a perfect one. Yeah. So I had no hydrochloric acid in my stomach, which is pretty major problem because you don't digest anything, and it's fatal. And so as you start to clean out the lymph in the body, especially round, you can see how much lymph sort of drainage there is around the stomach. Most of the lymphatic nodes are in and round about the small intestine. And so we get people to start focusing on cleaning out their large and their small intestine. And so the small intestine, again, that's if I have allergies, which is something I suffer from, because if you have low hydrochloric acid, you have a tendency to allergies. It's a right bugger, so it is. And it really is. And so cleaning out, you're helping the rivers in your body, as within, as above, or as below, as above. And so I always really sort of like, the rivers in our body are like the rivers around in the world, you know, in the planet Earth, Mother Earth. And so as we clean out these rivers in the body, then we start to, the organs start to function better, especially the lymphatics. I've just mentioned there, the stomach, hydrochloric acid. And another large lot sort of sit behind the gallbladder. And so when you start to do these liver cleanses, you're also helping your stomach massively. So I get people doing the small intestine and, well, the intestinal cleanse to begin with. And there's some parasites that you can see. So the 1, 2, 3, fourth one along, which looks like a worm, actually came out of somebody who did one of my liver cleanses. I used to have my own products, but I gave up doing that. And I went into Zen Cleanz because they're just amazing. And, you know, that came out, a friend of mine, she came on the messaging saying, oh, I did a liver cleanse. Nothing much happened. And I said, oh, okay. And then she came back and she said, you know, obviously you can imagine, I've just passed this massive, like, blah, 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 you know, whatever it was. And she sent me a picture. And so she passed this worm that came out after doing a liver cleanse. So when you remove the housing, which is all the gunk, the parasites just automatically come out. So when I did my liver cleansing, started September, a year ago, September, not last year, but the year before that. And I passed, honestly, like colanders of liver flukes. And they just came out with all the gunk. And the gunk was this yellow, rancid, hard fat that you could knock. And then underneath that was this green, you know, green bile stuff, what they call stones. And I just thought, every time I passed them, I thought to myself, are these really coming? This is somebody else, that hand there is somebody else's stones, but they can come out as big as that.
Gosh.
When you've washed off all the yellow stuff, you wash it off with you know, like a shower head. And then what happens is everything falls away, and then you can see the stuff that's come out with it, which is usually a mixture of stuff.
And all shapes and colours.
Yes, and all shapes and colours, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember...
it's a hallelujah moment, I can tell you.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
yeah.
And like you say, that's all blockages in your lymphatics, in your rivers.
And bile ducts.
I did one when I lived in Australia, when I was living with Beth, and we did one, and I can't remember which one it was, where you do the apple juice for so many days, and then you take oil. No, hang on, I can't remember what we did now.
Olive oil, and it could have been
grapefruit,
Epsom salts. Okay, yes, and apple juice, yes.
Yeah, anyway, we did one of them, and then like on the last bit, and then you're like, you have to drink the oil, and then you feel like, oh God. But you know, what you released was fantastic, you know, and I'm really aware that it would really serve me. And I think I mentioned to this before when we met, we were having a chat, that it would really do me good to do a liver cleanse. Or so the other question I was going to ask, because a lot of people go and have their gallbladder removed, don't they?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, if people did the cleanses first, would they need to go and have it removed?
Colonic doesn't remove the mucoid plaque. So you need herbs or enzymes to actually chomp away at the mucoid plaque. So colonics is just the water coming in, but you need something to break down the mucoid plaque that, you know, in the small intestine that's sat there for years. And, you know, people can, I mean, the first ever cleanse that I did was Rise and Shine. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it'd been going for a while. No. And when I first went raw, I went to my friend's house who was a naturopath, and 6 of us were in this cottage, and we're all doing this mucoid plaque malarkey.
Oh,
And
God.
if you were a fly on the wall, we used to come out of the toilet saying "Eureka," and we would on round the toilet and look at everybody's mucoid plaque because it was just so unreal. There was meters coming out of this black stuff, and you knew it was old because it had a distinct smell.
Yeah.
It wasn't like poo. It was very distinct. And so you can pass meters of this. And that's when I first wrote my first poem. And they say that the small intestine is linked to creativity, or the dantian is linked to creativity. And I wrote the life of Mr. Grape within 10 minutes after.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you should have shared it. You could have read it out.
Oh, I could have. Yes, I could have.
Do you know it offhand?
I've got it. I can look it up, and I'll leave it to another time.
Yeah. So what's the difference between a liver cleanse and a gallbladder cleanse? Are we talking two completely different things?
So a liver gallbladder cleanse is the same thing.
Same. Right. Okay.
So it's usually covering the liver and gallbladder. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, if people were doing preventative, so that you don't have to go along that, because I know a lot of people that have had their gallbladders removed and different things, and they, there's a lot of saying.
Yeah.
All right. There's a question. I'll just come back to Carol's saying. What advice do you have for people that have had a gallbladder removed?
So if you've had a gallbladder removed, it usually means that the liver really needs cleaning out. So first of all, a congested liver, there's, I don't know if I've put it in, but there's different stages of the liver when it reaches maybe the worst stage, which is cancer. So it goes through different levels of like fat. You get a fatty liver, and then you'll get, where it hardens.
What's
and
then,
that? That's a liver, just a 3D. You can see the sac, or green sac, which is a gallbladder, but you can see how huge it is, because it sits under your rib cage, massive organ. And so all the bile ducts, that's arteries and veins and various things, and you can see it's split into 2 parts. So there's 2 different lobes. In fact, I think there's 3 lobes. So yeah, where was I going with that?
Yeah, what sorry, but it looks like a blooming horsey saddle.
Yeah.
So what advice for people that have had their gallbladder? So
yes, that's what we were talking about.
Liver.
The gallbladder. So they need to clean out their liver. So the reason why is the gallbladder, which is just a sac which receives the bile, which is what coming from the liver, and then that bile is released with salts into the small intestine. But if the gallbladder obviously can't have what needs to be released into the small intestine, the first thing you have to do is clean out the liver. But most people have to take bile salts for the rest of their life with every meal. That's really important.
What sort's bio?
Bile, B-I-L-E.
Bile salts.
Yeah, bile salts.
Right.
So you can't get away without having nothing to take, because what happens, it's a bit like when you have anything cut out from the body, that's the worst thing that we can do is cut anything out of the body, because as you know, everything has its place, it has its little job to do in the body. The body's sacred, all this, if in doubt, cut it out, which is what happens. Oh, let's just whip it out, So definitely they have to liver cleanse, and then that'll free up all the gunk in the liver, and then they're going to feel quite different, and then they take bile salts. with the rest of the meals. They can start doing that before they clean out the liver. Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Yeah.
I don't know if my signal, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's my signal dipping in out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right. So, so obviously she needs to get some bile salts and
Yes.
start to do a liver cleanse. So,
Yes.
so going back to the liver cleanse, this is where you do so many days of apple juice, or is that different to the Zen cleanse that you talk about?
There's quite a few different cleanses out there.
The
trouble with apple is if people have candida, which most people have, different levels of it, which is an imbalance of bacteria in the gut, can be the small intestine as well, dysbiosis, which is what I had, then apple juice is not going to serve well because it's too much for the pancreas, it's too much sugar. So unless you're one of these people that can just do that and, you know, get results, but the majority of people, it's just too much sugar for the pancreas to deal with the apple juice. And so herbs are recommended, and a protocol where the bowel is emptied at least 7 to 8 times a day before doing the oil. Yeah.
7 to 8 times.
I used to run liver cleanse retreats, and I had my own products. But I use something called OxyFlush, and that's a combination of oxygen and magnesium. And basically, when you take it, the bowels just go whoosh. But if you're taking herbs that are going to act like a brush, you know, in and out of all the sort of nooks and crannies of the, you know, intestines, then doing that, and also on a liquid diet. So there's some protocols that are really beneficial. And it's, do you know, when you decorate a room, right? And you know how you have to prepare it before you do the final touches and the layers of paint. It's exactly the same when you're doing cleansing. You have to prepare the body, because if you just go straight in and do a liver cleanse without cleaning out the bowel, you're going to feel horrendous, which is why it gets a bad rap. Because it's all about the prep, all about the prep. Yeah.
So when you say herbs, do you buy? Is this where the Zen Cleanse has got the herbs and everything for you? You know, it's like a 5-day package sort of thing, or what herbs do people need to take? So
yes, there's various herbs that act like brushes for breaking down and cleaning out the bowel. And I now work with Zen Cleanse because their products are fermented for 3 years. And they also do the Buddhist Sutra chant whilst they're fermenting, which I really like. I used to be a Buddhist. I used to be very much into my meditation. So these sutras, Buddhist sutras, are chanted whilst everything's fermenting. And so if you know about Dr. Emoto, you can understand the power of that whilst the fermentation's going on. And so these products are pre-digested, but also as soon as you're taking them, so if you're pre-digested, and even the weakest of weakest digestive systems can tolerate them, these products, because there's no digestion needed. And as soon as you take them, because of the high enzyme capacity, they're anti-inflammatory. So when you reduce inflammation in the body, this is something I learned along my path, is you will cleanse easier. So inflammation slows down cleansing. And so that's why preparation is also essential, because what you're doing is you know, I used to be so aggressive on myself. I was a Campbell practitioner, went to the Amazon, really did some like aggressive stuff. And now I'm just into gentle, but powerful. And, you know, these are gentle, but powerful. And when you are gentle with the body, it can sigh with relief. You know, it can go, you know, and so as you gently prepare the body step by step, when it comes to all the right steps and put in the right place, everything just comes away with ease, you know. And that's the key secret. You know, there's a lot of like getting things in the right place at the right time.
Right. So Carol says,
yeah.
So is SIBO,
Yes.
small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, linked with the liver, and would doing a liver cleanse help?
Really good question, because that's what I had. It's another name for dysbiosis. So they changed the name, say they. You know, so what happens is in this world, so dysbiosis means that there's a, you know, imbalance of gut bacteria in the small intestine. And as the gallbladder releases the bile juices and bile salts, this creates the perfect environment with a great pH for the small intestine. So you can see why the gallbladder is very much linked to health, because the salts that are released are helping to create the right environment so that all those things that you don't want in there, growing out of turn, are not growing in there. And the small intestine, nowadays, I sort of talk about, you know, grains especially. So grains are just like sprayed left, right, and center with, you know, certain products. One of the sort of most horrendous pesticides, and it's the pesticides that are killing the gut microbiome. So it's a multi-layered. Then you've got the stress, you've got allergies, but cleaning out the gallbladder is essential, and having a gallbladder, which is why you need bile salts, to creating a harmony small intestine. But the small intestine can also be irritated by allergies, as allergies can affect any part of the body, even the brain. There's a brilliant book called Brain Allergies, and people have been put in prison for having brain allergies. Did you know that? That's amazing.
No.
Yeah. And I know when I have an allergy, I can be really cantankerous because I'm eating something that's really thrown me out of whack. Because it affects my brain. So it can go on to affect thyroid, pancreas, blah, blah, blah. And it creates inflammation.
Hey,
so I can go on talking and talking.
I'm just interrupting you. Hey, Susan, it'd be good if you just moved your chair to the left, or move the camera to the left, because I can see the sun. No, go your left.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, that's better, I think, for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, we've got the frog chorus now.
Yeah, I like it all in the background.
Yeah, no, it's lovely, but they sometimes
very at home.
Right, so I was going to talk about there's prebiotics and probiotics.
Yes.
What's the difference? And would you, because I know, because I had a chest infection over Christmas, I'm taking different things now to put back the balance. So what would you recommend? Because that obviously that's gut health, isn't it?
So very often, two questions there. Prebiotics are food like parsnips and various other food. There's a list of them that are meant to go on to help to create probiotics in the gut. So they're like the precursors to creating probiotics. So these are prebiotic rich food. So you can look them up quite easily. And probiotics, which are very much needed because the pesticides which are in food are wiping out the gut microbiome. And so, you know, you can imagine, and as probably as you know, people are eating food and not realizing, they don't know. This is what I realized when people used to come through the door. People just don't know these things, you know. And
but we're not taught these things, are we?
No.
This is not in the health system, you know.
Yeah.
So
when
you mentioned wheat, I mean, when you look on labels, wheat is so you know, unbelievable when I read a label now and I think, right, I try not to do wheat. I'm looking for wheat-free stuff. But my God, that's a job to find if you're buying packaged stuff or things like that, isn't it?
Yes. So when I cut out wheat many years ago, because I had IBS, and I thought, oh, I think I'll just try this. I didn't know anything then. I was in my 20s, and I cut out wheat for 6 weeks. And not only did I lose a stone in 6 weeks, but the most amazing thing is I felt fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that clear head. I had loads of energy. And I had to check every single label with flour. So it's shoved in coffee granules. It's put in lots of products to pad things out, to give it, consistency, or just to make it more bulky. I always say to people, check ingredients. If you don't recognize them, your body ain't going to recognize them.
No. And
yeah.
I can't think what the term is now, but there's something which I can't think what it is a minute. It comes a minute, but it's just saying, it doesn't tell you what's in there. There's a name for it where they can put any sort of things in, be it insect or what have you, and it comes under this label, you know, and it's like,
yeah, you don't want things with labels. And I call supermarkets supermarkets, because it was my friend that made that one up, and I thought, oh, that's a really good thing, good name. But if you can stick as close to nature, because our body is nature, then the receptor sites aren't going to become confused. So when you learn, so I usually teach people that you're this vehicle is nature. It's pure nature. So putting anything in that's man-made, this body, this vehicle, isn't going to recognize it. It's going to have to deal with it in some way, which usually means that it's going to get dumped somewhere, and if everything's working efficiently, then it gets dumped. It gets out the other end. But as you know, we've been bombarded left, right, and center with toxins. We have to be ninjas these days.
No, not God.
Yeah. So I say to people, get in your ninja mode, with everything that's been sprayed to goodness knows what we're breathing in. Again, having been brought up in Africa, where everything was just so pure and clean. And also I remember the days when people grew their own food and everything was organic, and there wasn't so much processed food either.
No.
Yeah.
And going back to labels, that you see this like gum emulsifier and this emulsifier. Yes. And this, and I got a little book somewhere. I haven't got it at hand. I've sort of got it packed up. And when because you don't know what half of these blooming things are that they're putting in, unless you've got a little book or a little chart with you.
Yeah.
There's just not much natural things in there, is there? And then, when you get something and it says is like say some sort of yogurt or something, you can use it within 6 months or something, and I think, God, what's in there keeping it going?
Keeping it going, that's what it is. When you clean out or start to clean out, your body becomes so much more like of a tuning fork. Children, when they haven't had processed food, they'll know exactly what to take, like so for example, my little niece, well, she's 16 now, she was 16 yesterday, and I remember when she was born, she was premature, and so she had a problem with dairy. She couldn't do dairy, and she had colic and so on, and so they avoided dairy, and she kept on going for the cucumber. And because cucumber clears damp heat in the body, but she all instinctively knew she needed the cucumber to clear the mucus in our body. And so children they're usually like, they know what they need and they know what they want, because they don't have this confusion going on, which has been infiltrated, unfortunately, by all this mixture of stuff that's gone into our bodies. And so when we start to rewire the body, which is what you do, you start to get these signals. And so my body's often saying, oh, I shouldn't have had that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we get that all the time, but it becomes even more like, even the smallest thing that's man-made, my body goes, no, I don't want that. And that's what happens. And people say, oh, you become more sensitive. But I would like to say that the body's just becoming its own natural tuning fork, which is what it is.
And it is about fine-tuning ourselves all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
And like, the more we do different things to help ourselves, then we can be an inspiration to help other people do the same. But
absolutely.
So going back to carbs, which I know, like sometimes I see the cakes and things on the shelves and that now when I'm getting coffee or whatever. And it doesn't, whereas before I thought, oh, I might have a chocolate muffin today or something like that. Now I know, because I haven't really ate much of that so much, I don't have a taste for it anymore. But now and again you think, oh, I really like something nice. So what nice things would you recommend in replacement of people having, like going in and having cake and something, because we're looking for that bit of sweetness sometimes, just to go with your thinking, oh, I could just do with a little something. And I like it when
absolutely,
I go that give you just a tiny little biscuit, and for me that's just enough to go with the coffee. I don't need anything else.
Well, this is what I'm all about, because I'm a foodie, and when I say I'm a foodie, I love working with food, and having been very much into the sugar, which I think was part of what caused my fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver, and also chocolate. So raw chocolate. So I live, on raw chocolate. Raw chocolate is just amazing. So it hasn't got the dairy in it. It hasn't got the normal sugars in it. And I used to make my own. And then you can add in all sorts of delicious things into the raw chocolate that you like. And you can make it so you can make it how you want, but you can make it medicinal as well. And so I made lemon ice cream the other day. And so you can do these dairy-free ice creams just by simply freezing a banana or mango and then blending it. There's some lemon ice cream and frozen lemon halves. That was an experiment. And it had a bit of coconut in it, and it's banana. But yes, nice. That is, so, for example, somebody coming off cheese, some people are okay with dairy. This is another thing you learn. And some people just cannot do dairy. I'm one of the people that can't do dairy, no matter what. And so you can make these delicious cheeses made with seeds, like sunflower seeds, by soaking them and then washing them. So you're getting rid of all the enzyme inhibitors, because they then block up the uptake of all your minerals. And then you can blend this up with all sorts of things and make these cheeses or sauces. And they are absolutely delicious. And when I've got people who have had to come off dairy and they make up something like that, you don't feel like you've taken the rug from beneath your feet. And it's not so sort of cruel. You've got something really nice in hand, and there's lots of recipes, especially in the raw food world. It doesn't have to be raw. There's people who do bread, isn't there? Keto bread, and make keto bread.
It weighs a ton. It's
and,
like a brick.
This is the other thing, when I had started being raw a long time, and I've come off being raw, but my body doesn't do well if I come off the raw, really. And really, forgot what I was going to say there. You can make all sorts of delicious things, really. really, the world is your oyster, and you're your own alchemist in the kitchen, which is why, yeah, I just love making, and I love making food for people. I absolutely love making food for people.
Well, I'll let you know when I'm back in Glastonbury. I'd like to know about if you're making any cheese. Let me know. I'd like to try that.
Yeah,
like with dairy. I mean, I don't do milk. My stomach just doesn't.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's not so. And I am partial to the odd bit of cheese. I buy goat butter and sometimes goat cheese. But the thing is, sugar is the one of the most hidden ingredients in all of these things, and a lot of people get addicted to the sugar that's in there, and it's weaning yourself off the cravings, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think if people tune into their body, and depending what type of body constitution, but I have learned through my training with John Andrews, the iridologist, and he's also a herbalist, master herbalist. He's a very clever man and a lovely man. And he wrote a lot on the hormonal system. And basically, if you balance the blood sugar levels, you will balance the whole hormonal system. And people think, and think that the blood sugar is just related to sugar, but it's actually related to anything the body doesn't digest. So if I have cashews, which I can't do, then my blood sugars are thrown out of balance. So they actually give women, diabetic tablets to get them pregnant. And instead of just saying, let's go and balance your blood sugar naturally by, I'm trying to get my head out of the sun here, I'm not doing very well, trying to talk and do this.
Having a dizzy spell, wouldn't you?
So yeah, basically, balancing the blood sugar is the hub of the whole hormonal system. And that's a really good thing to know. So when you balance the estrogen, because it actually throws the estrogen and progesterone out of balance. And I've helped women get pregnant just by balancing the blood sugar. And they were told that they were not, they'd had a child, they're told they would never get pregnant. And so people often come to you with being told such extremes of truths. And actually all you need to do is, tweak something. So yes, sugar, it's for some constitutions it's not healthy at all, like me. So I have to be careful with my sugar. I'm okay with fruit sugar, but then most fruit is hybridized. It's 10 times sweeter. They're always putting out there, this is like extra sweet corn and extra sweet apples. And so if you remind yourself, and also if it's been sprayed, it will spike your blood sugar as well. So these pesticides they block the insulin receptor sites and stop the insulin getting in and out of the cells.
And there's another thing that you can do is like the pH strips, can't you?
Yes.
I always say to people, you can get the pH strips on Amazon. You can check your acidic levels, and you can, take cider apple vinegar. We've got lots of different tools and techniques to help us. And sadly, when you go to other places for advice, they don't give you any of this, what's going on, like blood pressure. People got high blood pressure. So you've got to look at the emotional as well as the physical. What's going on underneath that's bubbling away at the surface that you're not dealing with, It's just finding the balance to all these things, isn't it? So
blood sugar levels can cause a multitude of symptoms, from people who have phobias, nightmares, and then it goes on to addictions. So most addictions are related to unresolved blood sugar, where you've been hypoglycemic. where the blood sugar keeps dropping low. So it goes sky high, but keeps dropping low. And so people become addicted to coffee. They become addicted to all sorts of things. Even smoking affects the blood sugar. And if only they realize that what you need to do is balance the blood sugar levels. And it can cause all sorts of diseases as well when you've had hypoglycemia for a long time. And then what happens is the hypoglycemia starts to become the blood sugars start to become really erratic, and they go crazy all over the place. And you can just tweak things. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I can feel my blood sugars beginning to go now, because so some of the symptoms would be, I'll just give some palpitations. You can feel very easily overwhelmed with the smallest of problems in your life. So if you feel like you're constantly having like breakdowns, it can be blood sugar. You feel you're unable to cope, palpitations, sweatiness. Oh, the list is huge. And that's just blood sugar.
So how do people get their blood sugars checked?
Well, basically to know the symptoms,
right,
and then look at what you're eating, and make sure you've got protein in your day. And there's also ways, and there's so many layers to this actually.
Oh, I bet.
But, you know, fasting could be beneficial, but depending what type of fasting. So there's different layers of fasting. There's water, there's juice, there's absolutely nothing. And depending on somebody's blood sugar levels, then you have to be careful how and when, you know, what you do. And so somebody who did the one kit, my friend, Heinz, I don't know if you met Heinz, the eco-architect.
Yeah.
And he did the one kit, and his blood sugar went from 14 down to 7 in 2 days because he released so much gunk from his body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I know you do a lot of juicing, don't you? Because is it celery and lime juice you do a lot of in the mornings?
Oh, I love to start the day with celery juice if I can. If I'm in the clinic, I might do, you know, feet. I do 2 days, and I get up mega early. I kind of brush aside a lot of things those 2 mornings. But I do my celery, and I do ginger in it in the winter, because you don't want anything cold going into your body when it's like really cold, because you want fire in your belly. And the fire in the belly, you know, with ginger and lime. Lime clears mucus from the head. It's really great. You can do lemon, but I like lime.
Yeah, because I found I could, you know, I've done celery juice, but it doesn't sit well in my tummy. Just celery juice, it doesn't suit me. So, but you know, we're
cold. Yeah, so it's interesting. So maybe,
you do that with cold pressed juice, or can you do that in a blender?
You can do a blender and then put it through a bag of some sort that will sieve that fluid. So if you find some material that's bleach free and you can use as a sieve, you can do it that way.
Right, I'm just trying to think, because like there's another thing, like people don't realize when they get their toenails and fingernails, when they get fungi, is their way of their body's trying to get rid of something within the body. And you know,
yes, like, obviously I see that being a podiatrist. And I'm not just a podiatrist. I actually get a lot of my clients doing all sorts of things.
Oh, I bet.
And so they come to me and I say, you know, I get them on probiotics and get them cutting out this and cutting out that. And yeah, you're right. So often it's anything on the outside of the body is usually a sign of something being out of balance or out of whack inside the body.
Yeah. And this is where, you know, again, it's fine-tuning your body to recognize there's something going on that I need to look at, rather than you know, I see all sorts of different things with people when they're talking, and you know, there's a line, there's a fine line where you can sort of offer advice and say, you know, have you tried this and this, and you know, it's like taking the horse to water, isn't it?
I feel like when people realize about tuning into their own body, you know, it's the body's wisdom, intelligence, and that's what we're pulled away from, is the body's intelligence with all the sort of stuff that's going on. And so we're made to look outside, we're made to look for constant distraction. There's nothing wrong with a bit of distraction, but you know, this constant distraction on the outside, we've forgotten, a lot of people, how to read our own body sending signals. Just like you said there, Andrina, about the celery doesn't sit well in your tummy. And so it could be that it just needs a little bit of heat, like ginger. And then your tummy, because the tummy needs warmth to produce the juices, it doesn't like cold stuff. It likes warm stuff. And so it could just be one tweak, and your tummy might receive it better.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something else I was going to ask then. Hang on, it's popped out. We're talking about the juices.
Okay, so from a mere male point of view, listening to you girls.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I wanted to go onto a liver gallbladder cleanse,
yes,
what do I do? Where do I start?
So first of all, I would look at taking one or two things maybe out of your diet that's maybe causing problems in the first place, if there are any at all. And then that's a huge detox in itself, just by, you know, coming off certain things. It's amazing how your body responds. And then I would look at cleaning out the small intestine and the large intestine, because that's the small intestine is where the lymphatics, the dustbin men, lie. A large 70% of your dustbin men are in the small gut. And then it would be going on to a liver gallbladder cleanse.
And because that's on your website, is that the Zen Cleanse that you recommend, and it's got everything in? Is it for 5 days? I mean, I looked at it back a long time.
Well, there's one called the Rainbow Cleanse,
right,
which has the one kit, the intestinal in it, and it has the liver and gallbladder in it, and it's done over 7 days. And then I'm starting my first retreat online on Friday, and people are doing the one kit, and then they're doing 3 days in between, where most people will still be passing gunk. You know, after doing the one kit, you're taking sachets, and you're taking these herbs that have all been fermented for a day, from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. So you're taking all this water and these herbs, and you get all sorts of noises going on in the body. And then the next day, people are usually on the toilet pooping, all sorts of stuff.
You need to stay in for those couple of days.
For definitely the day you're taking all the herbs, because you're taking something every half hour to every hour, and you couldn't do anything else really, and you want to be relaxed. And it's kind of like a little retreat for yourself. And then the next day you're pooping, and some people are pooping for 4 days after that. And so really you can introduce juicing at that period if it's appropriate, light juicing like celery. And then they go on to do the liver gallbladder cleanse. And so it becomes a 7-8 day retreat. And so the body's ready to get rid of all this stuff that's in the liver and the gallbladder. I passed so many colanders of gunk. I'm still shocked about what came out. And I thought, and I got to number 20, and that's when the yellow fat stopped coming out. And I trained as an Ashtanga yoga teacher, by the way, and I could never do the ones that involved the core. I was always bendy. But when it came to the core exercises, And after number 20, I could just lift my legs up from the floor straight and do all these core exercises because I released all this gunk that was, you know, because it's your chi, it's your prana. And the liver has got the word live in it, live, because that's where your true power comes from, is your liver power.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So has that answered your question, Jeffrey?
The frogs have just stopped. Hey, bread. The other day I felt, and I purchased Turkish bread. That's that really thin. It's long, but it's very thin. It tastes really nice. But you actually get unleavened bread. You know, you can get unleavened bread.
I've heard. Is that like it's less starchy? I think I've heard of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it made with seeds? It's got more seeds in it. Yeah.
These frogs are going to contend with the frogs.
Yes, I know.
The other thing that most people find is that in Australia, which is a major wheat growing district, they have to store it. And they had a mice and locust plagues and all that stuff. So they use aluminium sulfate and they spray it to get rid of it. But then they've got to go and wash the wheat. So quite often washing the wheat doesn't actually get the aluminium sulfate off the husk. So most people say that they're gluten tolerant, but it actually is aluminium sulfate. It's the issue.
You know, when the flour is collecting mold, the mold actually produces LSD, and it's ergot. So the mold is called ergot as well. This is another thing you might like to know. So ergot produces LSD, so people get addicted to the high feeling of white flour. So isn't that interesting? So people,
really?
So people are getting high on white flour.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's never ending, the stuff that you learn. So that what you said there about the stuff that the sprayed, all sorts of shenanigans go on with stuff that's stored on the shelf. You've got the biggest problem actually that people don't realize is the molds. So mold, MOULD or MOLD, is plays havoc with the blood and the liver. You know, people who live in black mold buildings, as you probably heard, that's quite well known. But even I have to avoid mold. So because I was so ill, I still avoid mold. So if something's gone moldy, I just avoid it. And this if you have autoimmune conditions, most of the time people need to clean out their liver and they need to avoid things like mold. So
because I know, like, some places I've gone in and straight away I think, I can smell the damp in here or the mold. It's just like, sort of. There was a question, I think Ruth just put up something.
Yes.
Did I see? But hi Ruth. Hang on. Do you keep any stock of the cleanse? I think that you've got to get them on your website, aren't you?
Yes, they come from Taiwan, and it takes 4 days for them to arrive. So they're here in a nanosecond. And but it's best to order over a certain amount so you get the free DHL, but that's on my website. But yes, you order through my website and you get 5% off. And if anybody wants to talk to me about anything, please feel free. I just love what I do. Even when I have the chats with people and they want to know this, that, and the next thing, I'm always happy to facilitate any information that people might need to know. And I think it's good to have a chat before you order anything, and then you're going to consider doing anything as well, because there's just a few wee tips that you might want to, like, you might want to do this, you might want to do that, blah, blah, blah.
But yeah, so obviously the main thing is for people to start doing their liver and gallbladder flushes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, the word liver contains the word live,
Right.
and you really do feel more alive when you start to clean out. And I'm
Yeah,
talking,
because
I,
I know
I talk from experience. Yeah, I was so goddamn gunked up. Yeah, yeah,
but I know I've had when I lived in Glastonbury previously, I lived with a friend who does colonics, and
yeah.
I don't know whether she still does them anymore, but she does them with sound. So it was really
Oh,
powerful that
beautiful.
fill up your tummy with the liquid,
Oh,
and then you'd
yes.
sound out. So you were literally letting your shit out with sound.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, on the retreat, my friend, who's a composer and a musician, she's offering sound journeys as part of the retreat, because the power of sound and the
Oh,
frequencies that are used. I mean, the heart is a musical chamber.
mm,
So the heart itself, the body's designed. If you listen to all the noises, you know, the body is a musical chamber, especially the heart.
yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I know I might have eaten something and I hear some gurgling. I think, oh my god,
Yeah.
I should have
Yeah.
had that. And all
Yeah.
these interesting sounds
Yeah.
are coming out. But another thing, like parasites is huge. I mean, we all got
Mm,
parasites, and I know I personally I always do a poo check so I can see when I've got some in there, and
yeah.
I always take some extra diatomaceous earth.
Right. Yes.
That's great
Yes.
for getting rid of
Yes.
the little parasites.
Yes. Yes. The thing about parasites is they rule your consciousness. Everything like that kind of lives in harmony, symbiosis, you know, in a symbiotic relationship in the body, and it's wet, you know, that yin and yang thing. So these things, obviously, when they multiply, that's when people start having. So when people crave things that aren't healthy, like, I mean, I used to eat a packet of biscuits quite easily, you know. I used to, yeah, I would have a packet of chocolate digestives, not all the time, but or
Yeah.
half a box of chocolates. And that is the parasites,
Mm.
and they have the ability. I don't know if you know about toxoplasmosis. It's quite a bit of a horror story, but there is a guy who talks about it on YouTube. And they make you, and they can cause the toxoplasmosis. They say some, and I don't know how true these figures are, because where do these figures come from? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And they say 50% of people have toxoplasmosis on 70% of the elderly. It's quite interesting, and I don't know how true it is. But I was diagnosed with toxoplasmosis, and it's a bit like the malaria parasite. So it's a parasite that's very difficult to get rid of, which is another reason why I'm so clean in what I do. And it can be, excuse me, harping on the radio. It can be challenging to deal with certain parasites, but you can't go. And remember that parasites, I mean, parasites are multidimensional, as we all know. And when I used to do a lot of plant medicine, I used to see the both the parasites come out, you know, when you purged physiologically, and also used to see them. And when you realize you're clearing your spiritual and your emotional stuff, you're also helping the physiological. It's that same thing, as above, so below. And parasites, you know, in Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine, they just talk about dampness and mucus, which if you don't continuously harbor a damp body, and if you're in a damp climate, and that can be a hot damp climate or a cold damp climate, and if you're adding all this damp forming food, you're going to have more of a tendency to harbor parasites, because that's their, you know, they like that ground and all sorts of things. So it's all about the mucus and dampness. In Chinese medicine, that's all they work with, is a dampness. And I tend to teach that a lot, about dampness and mucus, same thing. And some body constitutions like mine are more prone to dampness. And so I have to really make sure that I'm physically moving. I do saunas in the winter, and that really helps. And not have too much damp forming food all the time. It's a whole other subject. So and food energetics, it's food energetics as well. It's really fun and interesting. But again, at the end of the day, if you have something and you're really tuned in and you have something and you go, oh, you either feel tired or you feel like hyper or you feel, don't know. They say, there is this saying that goes around is most people who are having an average diet are having 72 stimulants a day in their diet.
Is that what they know about or unknowingly?
That is what they don't know. So when you do fasting and you don't have any stimulants coming in and you're sitting with your true energy, your own energy, people go, ah, where's that coffee? Where's that chocolate? Where's the sugar? You know, to give you that sort of like, you know,
Fantastic. Well, I think we could go on forever. So I think we'll call it a day there, and maybe later on we'll do a follow-up on more about the body and the body talks and the energies and all that sort of thing. So fascinating. So much because you've got your practices down in Somerton, isn't it?
I've got foot practice is in Somerton, right. And then the rest of the time I'm doing the retreats and inspiring people. I love making videos. I love making food videos and you are an inspiration. So thank you, Andrina.
Yeah, well, it's been lovely, and thanks to Vicky, because it was Vicky that connected us.
Yes, it was Vicky.
So
lovely Vicky.
I saw she put a comment up somewhere. So thanks to Vicky for connecting us, which has brought you here on the show today. So
lovely to be here.
Thank you.
Really lovely. Especially with all the sounds of the frogs and everything in the background. I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm having a break at the moment. It's a mission for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
That's good. Lovely.
Okay. Well, fantastic. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and same time, same place next week. And thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.